Hello and welcome back to Third Culture Africans. I'm Zeze, your host and the voice behind Third Culture Africans. Welcome to a space where culture, success, and inspiring journeys collide. Whether you're a dream chaser, a culture enthusiast, or just looking for your daily dose of inspiration, you're in the right place. Welcome to another episode of Third Culture Africans, and my guest this week is, and I do this on every episode, so I'm going to do it again with yours, popularly known as Mr. Mahogany, a multi-award winning founder in production events and has one of the largest model agencies in Africa. It is none other than Mr. Shola Oyebade.
That's correct.
Wonderful. So I guess we've been trying to get this in the diary for a while. You're a busy man.
Sorry. I do apologize. Yeah.
You're a busy man.
It is busy. Trust me. I can't even tell you how many pieces I've been to before even coming here today.
This morning?
Yes.
Oh, I only just managed to get across Ikoyi. The sat-nav says I'm 5 minutes away. It was not 5 minutes. So I guess if we can start with your early journey, because I think the Nigerian fashion scene has changed a lot. Also, the model scene has changed a lot, and the opportunities have exponentially increased. And I would love for us in this episode to talk about, I guess, your experience of that transition, because you were there at the beginning of it. And then we're now in, I guess, what everyone is calling the Renaissance. And all of a sudden, the world market is looking at our talent as an opportunity. So I guess let's dial back to early years.
How far back we going?
As far back as you can go.
Well, let me start giving a little bit of background about myself, particularly like how I got into the industry. For me, it's funny enough, it started when I was in secondary school.
Okay.
Yeah. So I went to, I did part of my secondary school in the UK. Then I came to Nigeria and I went to Maryland Comprehensive Secondary School, which is near Ikeja. And it was very much a mixed school.
Yeah.
So it was, there were not too many mixed schools around at that time, but this was one of the mixed schools. And then, they used to have this thing called literary and debating societies. Most people not know about them, but basically it was meant to be, you told your parents that you're going to another school to go and do debates. Do you understand? So we'll say we're going to go and do debates, and loads of schools will come to, and schools take it in turn.
I was in the debating society.
And then really it was a chance to go and party and stuff like that. And then, we'll do fashion shows and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And because we were a mixed school, we put together some really good choreographed shows.
Oh, nice.
So we get things like ladies' night, and guys will have walking sticks and bowler hats. So we put all of that together. Yeah. So from that time on, I started being in charge of doing the choreography and putting the shows together and stuff like that. So of course I really like that. Then I went back to England to do my A-levels, kind of got quiet then, didn't really do too much. And I came back to do my degree. I decided I love Nigeria so much. So I came back to Nigeria and went to the University of Lagos. Now I kind of grew up by myself, so to speak. So I had to find a way to fund myself through school. And I decided to do modeling.
Oh, wow.
So I was like one of the few male models. I think there were, at that time, there must have been about like only 2 or 3 male models.
How do you have that? How do you have that conversation? I'm going to be a model to your parents.
That's where I was lucky, like I said, because I was I grew up by myself and my parents were like in England.
Yes.
That bond wasn't there. They weren't in my business.
Okay.
However, people around me, aunties, uncles, people that kind of knew what I was doing, like, are you useless? How can you do such things?
It wasn't a career.
No, it was really frowned upon. Wow. They viewed that if you modeled in those days, you must have come from a bad background, wayward. Wow. You had nothing to do with your life. Yes. You know, it was very much that sort of thing. Because those were the days when, you know, being a footballer, a model, an actor were frowned upon.
Anything in you had to be an cultural arts. Forget about it.
You know, forget about it. Doctor. You understand?
Is speaking football going to pay your bills?
That was how it was seen then. Now, parents are killing themselves to get their kids to do these things. So, I used modeling to put myself through school. So I literally, I was never in school. It was that bad. I don't even know how I passed. Wow. I must be honest with you. I don't know.
But that's how you funded your education. That's how I funded my education. And your living expenses.
And everything. And I lived pretty large then, I must be honest, compared to the others.
Modeling was paying at the time?
Oh, yes. Modeling has always paid.
Okay.
You may not think that you're going to become a millionaire, but it's always paid money. Yeah. Do you understand? And being one of only like 2 or 3 male models, when we did all those Milo adverts and all those different Guinness and all those sort of things, we were paid for them. It was why it was so stressful was that we didn't have mobile phones then.
Yes.
So the only way to know about casting, we didn't really have emails then either. No. So the only way to know about casting is you literally had to go to the different agencies, advertising agencies, and sit down there each day to find out if they had casting. So you literally went from
agency to agency.
And if you were lucky and there was a casting or you heard about it and you were casted, then fine. If not, so that's why I spent most of my time out of school more.
Because you're on the road, looking for work.
But I loved it. It was good fun. Then I left, like immediately after I finished my exams.
Yes.
I didn't even wait. I never did youth corps, by the way. Oh. So I could never run for president.
Or you can never really run for like a CEO or something.
I can't be a commissioner or anything. I'm stuck. So I went back to the UK and I did all the right things in terms of employment. You know, I got a job in a bank. I did all those sort of things that they wanted. Bored out of my mind, but I still
you were in it.
It would make everybody happy.
Yes.
But at that time, I now decided I wanted to set up. I set up in 1994. I set up Mahogany.
Yes.
Which was we started off doing bridal shows.
Okay.
We started off with the African Caribbean bridal show.
Okay.
We also had a wedding dress shop. And at the same time, I set up Mahogany Models. Well, soon after I set up Mahogany Models.
So was this because you, at the time, could see the need for an agency different to what was already there?
So for those 2 aspects that I went for, you know, I got into the UK and I looked around and I see the wedding show, UK's national wedding show, this and that. And I went down to them because I like seeing what's going on in the industry. There were no black people.
No.
No black people at all.
None.
If you wanted to get married, you had to use a white caterer. You had to get a white wedding dress from a white type of designer. Yes. Everything was just white oriented. I said, what's going on? I started now investigating. Hey, where's the black stuff?
Yeah.
And there was none. So I now said, okay, let me set up the bridal.
Yes.
A bridal we called it the Mahogany Bridal Show.
Yeah.
And it was aimed at what we call then people of color.
Color, yes.
That's what it was. So for us, people of color was everything non-white. So it was African, Caribbean, Asian, Hispanic, mixed race.
Yes.
That's what we consider it was non-white. Yeah. White people were allowed to come to our events and exhibit and attend and all of that. But we were very clear about what our goals were.
Yes.
And I found out the same thing within the modeling industry. Around that time, I think it was only Naomi Campbell. The man was just getting out of the business. So there were hardly any black models around. And when you went, they only wanted mixed race models.
Yes. They had to have
only 1 or 2 of
very
them.
American.
With the big
catalog
fluffy
hair.
Afro, curly hair sort of thing. That's what they wanted at the time. And I said, no, let's just think right. So I set up my business and get it going. And it was hard work.
Yes.
Because there were no businesses. You know, I remember I started working with Kashiba, who's a very big wedding. And
so I know of you from those early days because a friend of mine modeled, and another friend was a designer. She does a lot of styling now for like music videos here. But Z from ZI.
Oh, really?
And Valerie.
Right.
Yeah. So I have, and I interned at some point for Z actually.
Okay.
Many years ago. But yes, I remember Kushiba.
Yes. So I remember when Kushiba came first, because I knew him when he was in, he went to the University of Ife. That's where he started. I remember when he came for the first exhibition.
Yeah.
All he had was drawings. That was his exhibition stand.
Wow.
Drawings of his clothes. And for most people, they had not really set up businesses. They knew they wanted to do this sort of stuff. So they just had leaflets and a banner here and there and stuff like that. And that's how we started. Eventually, of course, people's businesses started growing bigger, and they started doing things properly, having dresses, and we started doing fashion shows. So that was where the mix of models, having mahogany models and having mahogany bridal show came into being. Because we now wanted to do the bridal shows, and we had no models. So we now had to look for models. Then I had to train the models, I had to show them how to walk, because there were no opportunities for them in the UK at that time. So that was very much how we got started. And I was in the UK up until 2013. I'd been coming back and forth to Nigeria to do some shows from around that 2009 up until now. Along that journey, I'm sure you're going to ask me questions.
Yes.
So I'm
go ahead. Go ahead.
But there were lots of things that went on. I remember when we set up the modeling agency, you know, and then I got a phone call. I think it was from the New York Times or one of those newspapers at the time. And they said to me that they'd like to have my views on the new Italian Vogue that was coming out, which was the all black issue. I don't know if you remember that one.
Yes, I do.
So they told me about that, and they said that the quote is that because it's an all black issue, they expect it to be the worst selling Vogue ever. I said, really? Well, I said, I don't believe you. I don't think that's going to happen. And then Facebook had just really come into place then. So I set up this Facebook page, and we called it The Black But Invisible. And the caption there was that we wanted to make the Italian All Black Vogue the biggest selling issue ever. Cut a long story short, we did do it. You know, they reprinted for the first time in their history, reprinted twice. And if you have it, it's a collector's item. You know, so it was one of those things. But during that journey, I got a lot of what's the word? You know, when somebody hits you back.
Pushback.
Yes. That I was racist. You know, I was this, I was
You're
that.
You're too pro-black then.
Yes. But they were particularly concerned about the racism part, that why would I set up an agency that excluded white models? So I spent a lot of my time on the BBC and all kinds of things, educating them, saying, listen, here are the numbers. So we got into the Evening Standard. There's so many articles where we broke down the numbers. I said, okay, here are the top agencies. They have 400 models. They have only 3 black models. 2 of them are mixed race. So how am I being racist when the numbers stack up that you're not using them? You look at, I mean, then fortunately Jordan Dunn was, I think with all this going on, she was just discovered around that time. She was, and they really put a lot of emphasis on Jordan Dunn.
Dark skin, black model from the UK.
They really put her out there. I mean, she's actually coming for GT Bank. A masterclass, so she's going to be speaking next week. So, you know, they really put a lot of emphasis on her. And I said, that's just one model. Why are you trying to make it a big deal because you discovered one model? And you're trying to make it, we're not racist.
That's very much the thing, right? I think for a long time, we've operated on this one in, one out system.
Yes.
So, especially in the UK, I think the US is totally different. But in the UK, it's whatever industry, it's only allowed to be one. And once that one, it's one in, one out. And what's interesting is there are lots of people doing great things. And one of the reasons for the show was to kind of go, actually, no, we can tell our own stories now.
That's right.
We can curate our stories and we can help build ourselves up. Because I think for a long time, the aspiration to have our stories be told on CNN or BBC or Vogue or any of that stuff. And I always make this joke going, all of these articles have never paid me a dime.
You know? And you're so right about that because when I was there, one of the things I set up, I also did a bridal magazine called Mahogany Bridal magazine. I set up, and that was also to sort of compete with the likes of Cosmopolitan and all the wedding magazines and stuff. It's hard work. Of course, it didn't last too long.
We'll talk about publishing soon.
That's just another ballgame. So it was always, for me, it's always been part of this. How can we tell our own story? How can we do things for ourselves? I mean, I think where I've been quite fortunate that a lot of the businesses that, particularly that in the UK, and even quite a lot of individuals and people that are here now, at some point passed through Mahogany.
Yes.
Just simply because we were the first. We did a lot of things. So either as a model, as somebody that's a designer or a caterer or something like that. You know, now in Nigeria it's completely different. You know, there's so much more business. The business has kicked up. So you don't have that issue. UK is still better than before. I still think it's not perfect, but it's still better than before, you know, so I find that.
Do you feel like for you, and actually before I even go into that, I want us to talk about the fact that you were doing all this and you still held down a full-time job.
Yes, I did. I worked for the Citizens Advice Bureau.
Can we talk about the fact that everything you've talked about was happening alongside. I met someone yesterday at the US consul, and he goes, "So what things do you do?" And I said, "But why are you assuming it's things?" He goes, "Because Nigerians have more than one hustle." No Nigerian has one hustle. So you were the CEO of the East End Citizen Advice Bureau.
That's correct.
For anyone who doesn't know anything about the Citizens Advice Bureau, do you mind sharing? Because to be fair, Nigeria needs it at this point in their trajectory. But if you don't mind sharing
I think, God, how do you explain the Citizens Advice Bureau? I think first and foremost, the easiest way is to say it's a charity.
Yes.
It provides all forms of legal advice, information, and assistance, particularly to people that cannot afford it, even though it's open to everybody, but it's primarily aimed at people that can't afford it. So if you've got a housing issue, your landlord's trying to evict you, you're trying to get evicted from your property because you've not paid your mortgage, you want to apply for benefits, you just want to know how to collect your child credit, anything like that, that's what they do. It's free advice. They never charge a penny. It's got a large volunteer workforce, but they have a few paid staff, and we have to look for all of our own money.
Oh, so wow. I didn't know that bit.
It's not.
So each office fundraises for themselves.
Yes. So every kind of office is an independent Citizens Advice Bureau.
So that's why some of them are really nice and some of them aren't?
That's right.
Oh my, I had no idea.
Yes, so you have to find, so the central office, Citizen Advice, gets some government money.
Yes.
Yes, and that's what they use to make sure there's consistency around all the different boroughs.
But for the quality of service that you'll get each
one, that's it. So when I first started as the branch manager of Hackney Citizens Advice.
Tough.
Yes.
Tough borough.
That's where I started. I started in Hackney.
Tough borough.
People that don't understand, it's like, how do I say, being in charge of maybe Mushin, Ajegule, that kind of place.
Everybody needs that advice.
Yes. So that's where I started. Then with everything I do, I like to expand, and I found a way to expand it. So we then took on Tower Hamlets.
Oh wow.
And Newham. So that's how then we got the name East End Citizens Advice. Yes, and that includes two of the poorest boroughs in the country. Yes. So Newham and Hackney.
Oh, they must have loved you.
Yeah.
You're probably like, you walk into like a regional meeting and they're like, please have a seat.
Considering I was the first Black CEO.
Yes.
And in total, I think we had only about, after me, then they added on a few more. So we then ended up with being about 4 or 5, but I was the only male Black CEO.
And in those days as well?
3 or 4, yes. This was started in the 1990s through to 2006 when I finally left.
Wow.
So, so I worked on that full time, like you said.
Yes.
And I had my side hustle. I was also a DJ, by the way.
Gosh.
Yes. So I did some, what would you call it? Taxi?
Yeah,
mini cabin.
Yeah.
We call it mini cabin, Bolt. So for people in Nigeria, I did a bit of Bolt. Wow. I did all of that. So I did all of them. I don't know. I just like working.
But at this point, you're building what is on this side of the pond seen as one of Africa's largest production events businesses. That's structured. Let's put it that way. Because at the time, it wasn't structured. People necessarily, maybe you could have one event, but they couldn't replicate it. They couldn't do it again.
Yeah.
So you probably saw lots of people come into the space going, I'm an event person, production. As these things go, you make it look easy so we all can do it.
Yes, I know.
And so you're building the infrastructure for this business. And then at the same time, you're working a full-time job. At what point do you then decide, you know what? I need to give this 100%.
It took a while.
Okay.
It took a while. I have to be honest, because the reason, if I had been in Nigeria, I think I would have done it full time a lot quicker.
Okay.
But when you're in the UK, if I'm as a show producer, as a production company, I'm competing with my fellow Caucasian people, and Coca-Cola is not going to give me their production job.
Yes.
You know, Samsung is not going to give me their event to manage.
Sad to say.
So I was then left with the black companies or people of color, and they had tiny businesses.
Yes.
They could not afford a production.
Yes.
They could not do a big show.
Yes.
You know, so when I used to do things like my Top Model of Color, my Mahogany Bridal show, and I remember our first year when we did Top Model of Color, we did at the newly opened Emirates. You know, people were just losing their minds that how can you do an event at the Emirates and a black company at that? And I know the kind of hassle I went through getting approval from these, because their first reaction was, oh my God, he's black. Can you afford it? What kind of people are you going to attract?
It's the people. Do we need security?
You know, so it was very much all of that. Oh my God, you know, and I had to spend all this time. Look, this is where I work.
Yes.
This is what I do.
Yes.
So that also helped. And when they did my profile and we had done all the stuff around the all black vote issue, and they'd seen that I'd been in so many newspapers and on TV, they felt, okay, I think we can trust him.
He's
okay. He's not like the usual
not
black
like the
people. Yes, you know. So it was very much like that.
Yeah.
So so that's why it took a while, because, you know, if you're running a business, it's got to be self-financing.
Yes.
You've also got to be able to pay your bills. And as you know, the bills drop on time.
Money is oxygen. Money is oxygen.
You know, they're never late. And you got to pay them. So, you know, it took that sort of time of build up the capital, build up the business, and help other people grow, because that was a key factor. For me to be successful, I needed people around me
to be successful.
Yes. Otherwise, I was just doing it for the sake of doing it. It was just never going to work. So we started seeing the likes of the Koshibas and the Adebayo Jones and Favors Catering and other people like that started to build up good, strong businesses. And then we would say, oh, we're doing this wedding for Nigerians. And funny enough, most of our initial business for all of us were from
Nigerian weddings
that came to the UK.
Bold and beautiful, aren't they?
And they had the money.
Yes.
They had the money to do it. Because when, like, for instance, when you went to, I don't know, the Hilton or you went to any of those people, we were excluded.
Yes.
Do you understand?
One, our numbers were too big for their spaces.
And not even just that.
You couldn't bring your own catering.
You couldn't do any of that. So it was like, how many people wanted to go to those places? So we went to the likes of Porchester Hall and those kind of places, because you could bring in your own catering, you could do your own thing. Now you have people like Favors that are officially registered with the Waldorf and with all these different top hotels. They've now realized that they need to have an African caterer on their books.
Yes.
Do you understand? So, because when we come with our weddings, you know what they're like. We come
bold and beautiful.
So, and they were realizing that they were losing a lot of good business by not having African caterers. Because there's no point saying, okay, well, I've got this English guy that can do something a little bit close to Africa. No. We need our pepper in our soup.
You want the Maggi in the jollof. The Maggi must be in there.
This is not working for
umami. No, Maggi.
So, that took a while to build up. you know, and it did eventually get there. So at some point I now decided enough is enough.
Yeah.
You know, I want to do my own thing. I've got enough to do my own thing. And in between that, we had set up Fashion's Finest in the UK, which has been running now, I think it's 13 years. And that's done during London Fashion Week. Yeah. And it's aimed at new and emerging designers. And I think we're now the second largest off-schedule show in the UK. So I've been doing all those sort of things slowly, but as in with anything, particularly in the UK, it takes a while.
Long time.
I mean, even when you look at Fashion's Finest in the UK, it's only now we're starting to get recognition.
Long time.
It's only now the British Fashion Council say, oh yeah, let's talk.
Let's talk.
Let's do stuff with you.
This is something I always say to people when we have this conversation around, you know, you meet someone who's starting business and they go, oh my God, I've been working so hard at this, but why is it not working? I'm in year 2 and I'm looking at them going, are you joking? I'm in year 14 and I'm still treading water. So maybe there's something you know that I don't know, but there's this underestimation of how long it takes and how much it takes to make it. From your perspective, having to wade the waters through the African market, the international market, and then combining the two, because what you've successfully done is taken a lot of your talent that you've had here and taking them over to the first world, let's put it that way. And you've watched them explode. How much of that is serendipity and how much of that is a reflection of the years of work you've been putting into the industry?
That's an interesting question.
Because often people talk about luck, right?
Yeah.
And we're currently sitting recording in Nigeria and Lagos. And one of the things with the show for me is how do we demystify success? How do we...
I don't think it's luck.
Okay. Perfect.
I really don't think it's luck because it wasn't like I walked into a room and I suddenly met Jeff Bezos and he said, oh my God, I really like what you're doing. Come and manage an Amazon event for me.
Yes.
Do you understand?
Yes.
I mean, I faced a lot of uphill struggles. I was blacklisted. A lot of my models were blacklisted from the mainstream agencies because we were viewed as racist and we were viewed as competition and they just didn't like all of that thing around them, you know. So it wasn't luck from that perspective. It was a lot of hard work. I kind of see myself as like it's a bit like being a pathfinder.
Yeah.
You know, I had to clear the bush and cut down the trees so the people that walked after me just walked straight through.
Yes.
I was the one that got the scratches and the bruises and were avoiding deadly snakes and that sort of thing. Do you understand? So it was very much hard work. And I think for me, it's always been about giving back. So it wasn't ever about the money. I've always loved what I've done or what I do.
Yes.
And I've always felt, and I say it to a lot of people, that if you do what you love, money will come.
1000%.
If you chase money as your primary thing, it is always very difficult.
It never comes. When I do that, it never comes. I'm like, hold on, I need to be commercial. Yes. And then I'm like, I don't even know how that works.
So I've always been about doing what, and I think that's where the success has come from. Because you've got to put in the hard work. You've got to be knowledgeable. Yes. You've got to be knowledgeable. You've got to meet the right people as well. You know, you've got to provide the service that people want, whatever that is. It's a service that people want and they want to buy. And that level of excellence has to be there. So it's definitely hard work and persistence and consistency. Those two things are non-negotiable. You have to be persistent and you have to be consistent.
Yes. Amazing. Speaking of, I guess then and now, you work a lot with young people.
Yes.
And you've seen, you know, you talked about your journey as a model. Now when you see I don't even know what 18-year-olds are. They Gen Zs now?
Gen Zs.
Yeah.
Yes, they're still Gen Z.
And the power of the internet.
If I had the internet when I started, I'll be a billionaire. Seriously. Because I remember when I used to do my bridal shows, I had to plan my advertising 6 months in advance because I needed to get my advert into one of the bridal magazines. And their cutoff date from their printing was most likely 3 months
in advance. Back. Yeah.
Do you understand?
Yeah.
If I missed it, that's it. The only things left to me were potentially radios, if I was lucky, some newspapers, but then, then it was The Voice.
Yes. That was it, yeah.
All the pirate stations is where we used to advertise in those days, So that was how I got my advertising. Flyers. Yeah, you go around. Yeah. Like, so we used to run a nightclub in the West End. And so me and my friend would go out at 4 a.m. in the morning, sticking flyers
in people's windscreens.
That's what we used to do.
Yeah.
That was how we advertised and stuff.
Helping you be smart with your money and finances is something we take pride in at Third Culture Africans. That's why we've partnered with Quidco, UK's #1 cashback platform, helping people to get something extra every time they shop online with cashback earnings on over 5,000 brands. All you need to do is browse or search Quidco for great cashback rates, huge discounts and vouchers at all of your favorite brands, and get a £15 new bonus credit when you join with our link. Earning cashback on your online shopping is easier than ever. Just hit the link below.
So speaking of Gen Zers, power of the internet. Now, based on where you've been in your experience and time and place, right? Gen Zers versus your time versus now. What would you say has been the biggest advantage?
Gen Zs, their world is so different. I wish I had what they had.
Yeah.
Or what they have. Because if I had what they have now, then I know it without a doubt I'd have been a billionaire. Without a shadow of a doubt.
Easy.
Because like when I do my bridal show, then, I used to have to think about doing my adverts 6 months in advance. Because the closing deadline was 3 months before publication.
Yes.
Then you hope people bought it.
Yeah.
I used to do flyers, used to do pirate radio.
Yeah.
That was how you go out there. Now, I'm doing an event in 3 weeks' time. I just do one post.
Yes.
And one post on Instagram or on Twitter or Snapchat or
retweet,
TikTok. If I'm lucky, can hit literally thousands of people like that. And it hasn't even cost me a penny. Then I know how much my budget used to be for advertising. Because to get into any of those magazines, I used to do a quarter page. And a quarter page then was nearly £2,000 or the equivalent of now, which is about 2 million naira.
Wow.
For a quarter page advert.
Yes.
And I'm waiting for it for 3 months and I'm hoping somebody will see it.
Yes.
Now, if I do an advert it doesn't even cost me unless I want to boost it. And even with that, I can spend like $20 or something like that and get it to thousands of people. So they're lucky now. And I think that is one of the things that does show why there are more people like that are influencers. Why
I was going to ask you about that.
Can do business in multiple countries without even leaving. For us, it was a big deal to say that I'm going to do business in China, do business in India, in America. I'd have to find a logistics company. I'd have to, go through customs and all these different sort of things. And it wasn't about how do even people find my work? That was even the biggest problem. Now you find on the internet, you can do a search, you can do whatever you're finding. Then people couldn't even find my work. So you were advertising all these, you were doing trade shows, you were doing all the trade. That's why, how things are. My Mahogany Bridal show, it became not useful after a while. Because nobody was doing, but nobody needed a bridal show, exhibition anymore.
You went online.
You could go online and find all your different wedding planners, your caterers, your decors, everything like that. So that was evolution. So one of the things that I've had to do in my 40 plus years of being in this business is to continuously evolve. I've had to see what are the future trends and start working to them way in advance. So in my journey, I've seen a lot of people that have faded out and disappeared. Why? Because they did not understand that trends were changing and therefore they did not change as well.
Speaking of influencers, as a model agency in one capacity, there's always this debate around models versus influencers. And in 2023, what is your perspective?
As in my perspective on the influencer versus the model?
Yeah. And what's the difference?
There is a difference. There's difference, but what's interesting is that you have somebody that are able to combine the two now, which didn't used to happen. So models primarily, their role hasn't really changed that much. They're still a clothes hanger.
Yeah.
They have to wear the clothes, has to look good on them so that when people see them at shows, buyers, press and stuff like that, or the individual says, oh, I really like this.
Yes.
I want to buy it.
Yes.
That's what we're picking them for. Influencers are different. They can be, in the nicest way put, they can be nobodies that make a name for themselves, that in a particular aspect of whatever it be, maybe clothes or jewelry or music.
ASMR, eating food on the
exactly. Whatever it might be, people suddenly get an interest in them, and whatever they post, whatever they say, whatever they do, people want to be associated with that. They want to buy into that dream, into that reality. And that's what social media is. Social media is buying into a dream.
Yes.
Is buying into, I call it a fantasy, because people never post the bad things that are happening in their life on the internet. Hardly. Newspapers will do it. Insta-blog this or Insta-blog that will.
Yeah.
But if it's me, I'm only showing you standing next to a Rolls Royce. Yeah. I'm showing you when I go on holidays to the Maldives.
Yeah.
I'm not showing you when I'm broke. Yeah. And I have no food in my house.
I am thinking, Kai, salaries are due.
Exactly. They're not seeing that side of things. So, but also you have models now that have become influencers as well. You know, I mean, if you look at Kylie Jenner, she is a model. Yeah. But she's also one of the biggest influencers out there.
Yeah.
And companies buy into that. Yeah. You know, if you look at someone like Ronaldo, he's a footballer. Yes. Once upon a time, you were a footballer, end of story. But now with 643 million followers on Instagram, your image and your name rights make you an influencer, make you a business.
As you said that just now about, Ronaldo, what came to my mind is like how big Maradona was.
Can you imagine if he had or Pele, if they had social media?
Like it literally just popped into my mind, and I was like, oh my God, like those guys were huge.
Yep.
Like you knew their names,
they were
you know what they
huge
looked
without
like.
social media.
And you didn't even know what they looked like.
Exactly. So imagine if they were around today, how big they would have been. Insane. The kind of money that they would have made.
Yes.
So everything is about timing. I mean, if I could go back in time, I would be reborn about now. Yeah. I'll be 18 about now. And I use all that knowledge. Yeah. Exactly. I use that knowledge now, and I know I'll be so successful. It'll be unbelievable.
Incredible. Let's talk about, I guess, your involvement in, I guess, the inception of what is the Nigerian fashion scene. And how that is creating a bridge for a lot of people. Now, at what point did you start to see your work as more than just something you enjoyed, but also becoming a custodian?
I don't really actually think that there was a time, because like I said earlier on, I've always wanted to give something back. I started in the fashion and the entertainment industry when there was nobody around. Yeah. So I had no choice but to give back. You know. So when I came to Nigeria in, if I say 2009, and I saw what was going on, I think it was about 2010 to 2012 or so that Lagos Fashion Week started at that particular time. And that was like the first fashion week. Prior to then, the only person really known was Diola Seiko.
Yes.
You know, there were not really too many others that were out there that were really known outside of Nigeria and stuff like that. So when I came back, I really wanted to make an impact. you know, and I wanted to bring that wealth of experience that I had from the UK of how they did things and how to do things to Nigeria. And I think where I was lucky was that I done things like Africa Fashion Week, London. So a lot of Nigerian designers had worked with me then. You know, I've been doing that for a number of years before I finally came back to Nigeria. We did it during the Olympics as well and stuff like that. So people had gotten to know me. So, and then through all the other stuff that I'd been doing, you know, some people had worked on my bridal show and some people had made inquiries of this and of that. And some people had brought me home to come and do shows for them and stuff. So when I came back, it was kind of easy for people to relate to me because they knew me. So I wasn't necessarily starting again. And people started saying, oh, how did you do this? How can I do this? What can I do that? How can I use the money? These people are doing this. I can't get my products out. How do I get through customs and VAT and all those sort of things? So I was able to give that knowledge. And I was somebody that I never charged. It was always free. So people just felt that call me and I, you know, I might say to them, listen, I might take a little bit of a time to come back to you, but I will always come back to you, you know, and please pester me till I do. And you know, I'll make time, I'll sit down with you and I'll go through and give you advice and say, do this and do that and so on and so forth. Because one of the things that I kind of realized a long time back was that with the population that we have in Nigeria, despite how well we're doing with music and how well we're doing with the movies, fashion is always going to be bigger.
Very true.
No matter what. You may not always like somebody's music.
Yes.
You may not always like somebody's movie, but you all have to wear clothes.
And it's quite homogenous. I've never been in an environment where it's so homogenous in terms of what is trending. It blows my mind. And I don't know if it's just a numbers game, but like I walk out and everyone's in a boo-boo of some sort with a big
but that's also an evolution because I remember when I was growing up, if you were not wearing a top designer brand,
you wanted to be English
and Yves Saint Laurent,
you want to be English.
You were nobody. Seriously, it was like, what are you doing? Whereas now, I mean, it is very rare that you see us going to look for those brands. Our brands are now going to look for a Tiffany Amber, a Banke Cuckoo. You understand? Those are the kind of people that were looking for Orange Culture, Maya Tafel. We want to be dressed by them. You look at Ebuka when he's on Big Brother. You know, he's wearing African clothes. He's no longer wearing the Armani suit and, you know, the Hugo Boss that they would once have worn with pride. So that has changed fashion and that has led to that massive amount of designers that have come out of the woodwork. To say, hey, I want a piece of this pie. And with our social environment as well, you know, we have parties like no man's business. Whether it's a burial, a christening, a wedding.
I've been in Lagos 4 days. I'm tired.
And it's every day of the week. And particularly with our women, they don't like to repeat clothes. And then you have Ashobis, you know, where everybody wears that uniform. You know, putting it so people understand they wear the uniform. So everybody goes out and buys material and everybody's trying to outdo themselves as to what they can design with the material. That is constant work. So the fashion industry in Nigeria is definitely going to be bigger, and even CNN noticed it and said it. There's going to be bigger than music and film combined.
Who influenced you?
Who influenced me? Funny enough, I would have to say it was African Americans that influenced me.
Wow.
Because I had no one else to look up to. Nigeria was not.
Nigeria.
When I started, there was no fashion industry. There was no real entertainment industry. England was totally white. So there was nothing there. So the only people I had to look up to were African Americans. And I remember when I first started, I set up, my company name was actually the Ebony Bridal Show. and I wanted to become ebony models.
Yes.
And then a good friend that was into legal stuff or whatever called me said, you can't do that. There's trademark on that name.
Yes.
And I looked and I said, it's true, I had trademark on everything from books to cosmetics to fashion shows to events. So there was not even something that I could even sneak in.
Yeah.
So I then had to look for a different name. And I wanted a name that represented Black.
Yes.
Or Black people.
Yes.
It took a while, then I came up with Mahogany. And I remember the fantastic thing in the end was better for me with the name Mahogany was that the mahogany wood comes in many different shades.
Oh.
And Black people, we come in many different shades.
Yeah.
So that was how I came up with the name Mahogany to represent people of color. We come in many different shades. So yes, I think that was my influence. I particularly like Ebony. I like what they had done with the brand.
And the magazine.
Yes, with the magazine. Yes.
Oh my God.
They had done a lot for Black people and they struggled. They went for it during, what would you call it?
Administration.
Yes. All the separation, you know, all of that sort of stuff. So it was not easy, and it was Black owned, 100% Black owned, you know, and self-funded, self-financing. Yes. So I looked up to them. The people that came much later were way after my time, like the Tyler Perrys, the Oprah Winfreys, they came after me. So I could not look up to them. So it was really the things like the Ebony's and stuff like that I looked towards.
What's your favorite thing about what you do?
Giving back.
Okay.
I actually really love that, which is why my team is always saying, you need to say no sometimes. You can't do everything. I said, no, because success-wise, I feel I have it.
Yeah.
Financially, I'm okay.
Yeah.
So what else do I have to do if I can't give back? If I can save somebody 2 years on their business, why not do that? If I can say, go in this direction instead of that direction, it helps them. Why not? If somebody's going down the wrong path or they're feeling down or they're feeling despondent, why shouldn't I give them my story and say, listen, I had to work full time. I had to drive a mini cab. I had to do all these things to get to where I got. Don't look at me now. And that's one of the things I try and teach the young people at the moment, because they always look at people like myself and I say, oh, it's okay for you. You're successful. You're rich. You're this, you're that. I said, you don't know what it's like. I work a full-time job. I leave my full-time job. I'll sleep for an hour or two. Then at 11 o'clock at night, I'll go and get into my car and I'll do mini cabbing, taxi throughout the night till 4 a.m. in the morning, get home, have a bath, and I'm back in the office by 8 o'clock. And I did that for how many years? So don't think that is like that.
Overnight
no matter
success.
what, you're going to have to struggle. Where you're lucky because of social media now, the struggle is faster. Or the struggle is less, I should say.
The perception of the struggle.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you can hit your big break much quicker and easier.
You mentioned consistency, and you touched on success earlier on. What does success mean to you?
To me, it's not money, funny enough.
Okay.
It's not money at all. I don't view success as money. I mean, I can go and play a bet, and if I'm lucky, I can win $1 million on a $10 bet.
Yeah.
Does that mean I'm successful because I happen to get $1 million? No.
Yeah.
Is there a legacy?
Yeah.
Can I walk into a room and people say, Mr. Mahogany, thank you. I really appreciate what you did for me the other day. My business is doing that. You're the one that helped get me started, or, you know, you did this for me, or you did that for me, or please, can I come and see you in the office? I want to talk to you about something I'm doing. That to me is success. My company being known is also success, because I don't think if my company is not known, then I'm not doing something right, you know. So my company being known is success. Also the fact that even at my age, even though I've got young people working with me, I'm still competing with the young ones out there. I'm still getting the business. You know, I'm still being able to do things. I'm still being able to be creative at their level. So it's not like they come to my room, oh my God, which old man did this for me?
In my day. In my day.
Exactly. You know, they come in there and think, oh my God, this is fresh. I love this. It's dope. Oh, this is fantastic. You're going to do that. This is the show. You know, they love all that stuff. So that for me is success, you know. What's my legacy? Is there a legacy? Is there a continuation? Can people look back to me and say, you know, it's because of you in the modeling industry that we now have Black models, African models that work across the world. Because you had that fight.
Very true.
You know, you took them on.
Very true.
And we are successful in our modeling agency. We might even be more successful than you in our modeling agency because of what the pathway that you created for us. So that's success. Money can come to anybody. It doesn't mean you're successful.
Very true. My last question. I'll make it a good one.
No problem.
I'll make it a good one. What would you say to a young person who has a big dream and especially wanting to work with corporates? Because, you know, a lot of what you do is bringing on big partners. And those big partners, as you mentioned, are the people who give the money that allows you to create. To someone who has those big dreams, what advice would you give them when working or looking for that corporate funding? Because, you know, statistically, we don't get funding, right? And especially women, Black women don't get funding. Now, what advice would you give to someone who is in that position, who is wanting to build?
I think the first thing that I always say to people is learn your trade. Stop trying to get to the top without paying the price. Be good at what you do. You've got to be good at what you do because you have got to have that edge. You know, there's thousands of wedding planners, thousands of event planners. What makes you different? What makes Mahogany different? What makes Sapphire different? You know, why do they stand out from everybody else when there's thousands of them? So learn your trade. And sometimes that means you have to do some sacrifices. So what I mean sacrifice, you might say, okay, I'm going to go and work for somebody for 2 years, or I'm going to intern for a year with somebody. I'm not going to make any money. I'm going to learn everything I can learn about the business, the do's, the don'ts, the good, the bad, the ugly. I'm going to learn that. Then the next thing that you have to do, from my perspective, is don't be a jack of all trades, which is a problem I tend to see in Nigeria. Because of our hunger to make money, we will chase absolutely everything that has to find to make money. There's lots of money in social events, in doing burials, birthday parties, but I've never touched it. I don't like it. Even though if money was my motivation, then I would do it and I'll make tons of money, but I don't like it. So I won't go there. And I know that if I try and do it, I'm not going to be as good as a Sapphire. So therefore, I might do a mediocre wedding and they won't come back to me. But when it comes to producing a concert, a fashion show, a corporate event, I will be among the top 5, if not top 3 companies that they're going to think about. Because they know that's my area of expertise. So I think what I'm trying to say to people, find an area of expertise. You don't have to chase everything. You just have to be good at 1 or 2 things. If you're good at one of those 2 things and people know you for those things, they will come looking for you. Particularly in Nigeria, that we work on a referral basis. You know, everything that you do is based on referral. If you want to interview somebody, you want to use, you know, even get your shoes repaired. Someone say, do you know somebody? Are they good? And you say, yes. They'll say, don't go to that person. This person is good. So people can actually make or kill your business in Nigeria just based on referrals. So you have to be good at what you're doing. You know, you've got to learn your business, be good at what you've got to be consistent. And you've got to be prepared for the time it takes to grow. You know, I know that we are in the social media world and you can grow quicker. But the truth of it is, if you're not good at what you're doing, yes, you might grow very quickly, but people will soon see through that. And the next minute, you're out of business. I know how many people I've seen grow like that. And 2 days later, I'm being a bit silly, but you know, a few months later, they're nowhere to be found. And nobody will touch them again. You understand? Then you've got to sometimes collaborate. Know when to collaborate with people. I mean, if you go into the corporate world, there's some events where they will tell you, you must use your money to do the event, and you're paid 30 or 90 days later. Now, if you're brand new and you're doing an event that's 100 million naira, where are you going to find that money? Because it's a big risk.
And it's 90 days.
And it's 90 days. 90 days. Finish, and all your vendors want their money
now. Everyone wants to be paid.
And you've got to come up with that money. If it's 100 million naira business, you've got to come up with 100 million.
Yes.
And you can't afford to go to the banks. In most cases, it's 22, 25% interest. So if you collaborate with someone, you might say, okay, Mahogany, we'd like to bring you on as a partner. Can you collaborate? We will give you X percentage of doing this business.
Yes.
Can you fund it for us? This, and that. So there's nothing wrong with that. But something I find, particularly with the young people, they want to take 100% of everything. And I always say 100% of nothing is
nothing. It's nothing.
Because if you go into that meeting and that corporate company does not feel you can fund the event, they're not going to give it to you.
Yeah.
And then you come and say, oh, it's all these big companies are always the one taking all the business. You've got to say it. But if you go in there and you say, oh, my partner is Sapphire, my partner is Q21, my partner is Fashions Finest Africa.
Yeah.
And these are companies that people know. Oh, really? Oh, you're partnering with them? Okay, no problem. Yes, let's have a serious conversation.
Yeah.
So it's things like that. Be consistent.
Yes.
You know, be persistent in what you do. I say it, and don't chase the money.
Yeah.
Chase the dream. Chase what you want to do. The money will come. There's no doubt about that. Be careful about the hype of social media.
Hey.
Social media is good, but a lot of it is hype. And a lot of it is fake.
I can say that one of the biggest realizations of me coming here and being, I guess I'd say, on ground is my perception of what I had been experiencing online.
And the reality.
And the reality differs. And I remember saying to my mom, like my first day after being out and coming home, and I said to her, I really need to have a conversation with myself about just being able to step into and live within my achievements. I think in the UK, you're taught to dumb down, or you're not big enough, so you don't talk about it. You don't. And I've come out here and I'm like,
no, we hype.
Are you joking? They should be laying out a red carpet for me.
Exactly. We hype here. We don't dumb down anything. Hold on, I'm the best. End of story.
This is it.
Forget whatever you want to say. I am the best. That's how we say it here.
But there's something around the fake it till you make it.
Yes.
And there's something about that boldness that I think is beautiful. But again, the downside is what you're talking about, which is if the proof really is not in the pudding, you know, those opportunities soon die down. Now, where can anyone find you? As soon as you've told them you're willing to help your whole village.
Oh my God.
You're willing to help the village. So wait for the DMs.
I can be found, I have 3 main companies in Nigeria, which is Mahogany Production and Events, which is our production side. So that's where we do all of our corporate events, fashion shows like GT Bank Fashion Weekend, Fashion Finest Epic Show, stuff like that. All of our concerts.
Don't say it like that, stuff like that. So not stuff like that.
We did the Renewed Hope concert, which was really good. Got 60 artists when Tinubu, just before Tinubu's inauguration. That was crazy. So that's mahoganyinternational.com.
Okay.
All our contact details on our website. So I'll just give the contact detail, the website. So that's mahoganyinternational.com.
Yeah.
Then we have Fashions Finest Africa.
Yes.
That is aimed at our new and emerging creatives. It's not about design, it's creatives. So like makeup artists, stylists, designers, people that are in the fashion space that want to learn about the fashion space. You know, so we have an exhibition that we do every year. It's called the Epic Show. We bring all of them together, exhibitors, designers, creatives, all that sort of stuff. We do workshops, we do conferences, we do all of that for people to learn about the business. And we have various initiatives that we do throughout the year, workshops and stuff like that. And that is FashionsFinestAfrica.com. So that's fashion without the S. Finest, FINEST.
We'll have it in the show notes.
So there's that. Then we have Fashion Finest UK for those that are in the UK. And that's our London Fashion Week show done during Fashion Week. And that's done every February and September. And our CEO is Deborah St. Louis. So she runs that over there. So because I'm here. So she runs that and has been going for a number of years. And that's FashionsFinest.com. So there's that. And finally, we have Mahogany Models.
Yes.
Which is Mahogany Models. What's that? Mahogany Model Management.
Too much. It's too much. It's too much.
MahoganyModelManagement.com. Yeah. So that's where we take on our models.
Yeah.
And primarily they are models of color we take on. And so if you go to that, you'll find us there. All of our contact details are on our page.
Yeah. So you can find them in the show notes, so you can click away.
And I think nearly all of our Instagram handles match our
website.
Yes. So Mahogany International is the same for our Instagram.
Yeah.
Fashion Finance Africa. Oh no, Fashion Finance Africa is FF Events.
Yes.
That's different.
It'll be in the show notes.
Yes, but Mahogany. So they kind of match our names.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
For giving of your time. Tune into next week's episode. It's been amazing having you on, and see you next week.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Yay!
If you've loved this episode or any of the episodes from Third Culture Africans, your support in making the show bigger will be much appreciated. Share it with a friend, comment on social media, join the newsletter community over at thirdcultureafricans.com, or leave us a review where you're listening to the show. Thank you, and until next time.